speaks the rhyme. Hocus pocus, now comes Yocus. Children watch the magic head. Eyes are staring dull as lead. Now you dear one off to bed. Hocus pocus, bonus locus, malus locus, hocus pocus, bonus locus, malus locus, hocus pocus, bonus locus, malus locus, hocus pocus. Now Gretel, be obedient and wise, while Hansel grows to bigger size. We'll feed him up, you'll see my reasoning. Sweet nuts and raisins make a tasty seasoning. You go indoors and do all my chores, and I'll remain here, little dear. Hocus pocus, elderbush, rigid body loose and hush. Now what? I'm so sly. Do you know what I'm going to do? When in the oven she's peeping, quickly behind her I'm creeping. Up we're sharing, we shut the door, clang. Then soon will Gretel be just unto a tea. And when from the oven I'll take her, she'll look like a bread from the baker. By magic fire I change into gingerbread. See how sly. Hee hee, hee hee, hee hee, hee hee. Ha 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 ha. So hop, 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 gallop, lop, lop. My broomstick knack and do not lack. At dawn of day, right away, up here and there and everywhere. At midnight hour, when none can know, to join the witches' dance I go. And 3 and 4 are witches floor, and 5 and 6 I witches fix, and 9 is none, and 10 is none, and 7 is near, but what she will. And thus I ride till dawn of day.
Good evening and welcome to the Expressions Digital Director's Cut featuring the cast and crew of Binghamton University's recent opera production of Hansel and Gretel. I'm Andy Pioch, broadcasting live from the WSKG digital studios, and I'll be taking you behind the scenes of this truly unique Expressions episode. The Expressions team was embedded in the process throughout the entire semester, and we'll go over all the details this evening. Now, this is an interactive program, and we would love to hear from our audience, so feel free to use the chat box to ask a question to any of our guests, and we'll do our best to provide an answer. Let's begin the evening with two people essential to this production from Binghamton University's Voice and Opera Department, Jean and Tom Goodhart. Hey, Jean. Hi, Tom. How are you this evening?
Nice to see
Great.
you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Great.
Thank you so much for your help in this production. It seems like it was just yesterday when we met in the TV studio and we discussed ideas about a collaboration, and now here we are, broadcast version completed, and here to delve into more details. So how do you think it all turned out?
One of my favorite things to do is have a little kernel of an idea and sit down at a meeting, as we did last summer. I think in June or July is when we met, and we had initial discussions last year, and then we started planning in the summer, and then figuring out what are the pieces, how are we going to make this thing come together. And you committed so generously to follow our students through an entire semester. And I'm super happy with the results, with the lovely videography by Stefan and the way the singers were so engaged and excited, and the students. It's lovely to see that documented. We thank you very much for doing that for us.
No, probably was like I said, it was a great collaboration for sure. And I mean, the project kind of piqued my interest because I could tell that it was going to be a little bit different than the usual Expressions episode, which for the most part will feature a musician or a group, playing music throughout the half hour. I figured this might give our audience kind of a different avenue to explore the arts, and I was happy that it came to fruition for sure. Let's talk specifically about the children's opera, because I think that was definitely an aspect of the project that kind of piqued my interest. How often this is a children's opera is something Binghamton University puts on every year, correct?
It is. It's something we've started. I want to say about 12 years ago. We started building our program, getting more singers interested that were interested in vocal performance. We started an opera workshop. The very beginning of that actually was Tri-Cities Opera had called us and asked us if we could possibly take a production of A Mall and the Night Visitors, which they typically were doing at their opera center. We'd be interested in doing it at the university with some of our students. And that's kind of how we got started. We rented a truck. We went down to the opera center. We loaded in the students and myself, and we loaded this set in and moved it over to the Anderson Center. And our first production was A Mall and the Night Visitors. And since then, we continued with The Mall and the Night Visitors for a few years. Then we started producing other children's opera. That was always our fall opera, holiday opera, just a couple of weeks before Christmas, right before our semester would end. And it was a wonderful project. And Jean has helped us to involve the schools and all of the children. It's been a great success.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch on how you take the opera to elementary school students. That was definitely a great aspect to the broadcast program. And you're looking at some footage here. I believe this is of the dress rehearsal of Hansel and Gretel. What made the decision to produce Hansel and Gretel for this semester? Was it just because you wanted to say the name Engelbert Humperdinck, which is the composer of this opera?
Yes. It's a perfect opera in so many ways. For us, first of all, we have to make sure we have the voices that can sing the roles. So we take into consideration what voice types do we need that can best do the roles. And also, we want to involve as many of our students as we can. So we're looking for an opera that has, more than 4 or 5 roles. And this opera absolutely fit the bill for it.
This is a condensed version of a much longer full opera. The full Hansel and Gretel would be 3 hours long. So this is an abridged version that we borrowed from Tri-Cities Opera. It was a production that when we were resident artists with Tri-Cities Opera that Tom had actually performed in. So this outreach into schools is something that's been part of our lives, first as young singers and as opera singers, and now as educators. We think it's really important to continue that. And the teachers love anything involving fairy tales. It's always a unit around 3rd and 4th grade. So it fits very nicely into the school curriculum as well.
Well, I think, the familiarity with Hansel and Gretel, again, I think that kind of piqued my interest as well. It was actually an opera, that even I could possibly understand. So definitely, why don't we go a little bit, you kind of mentioned your own personal history. Why don't you talk a little bit about how you both ended up at BU?
Oh my goodness. Well, we met through music, singing in an opera chorus. We grew up in the Western New York area and then went to college at Manhattan School of Music and followed each other there. And then as young artists and resident singers in our early young career, we came to Tri-Cities Opera as resident artists. And during that time is when we got married, actually, after we had dated for a long time. Then we ended up moving back to New York City and pursuing our singing careers. And then we began teaching at Purchase College, which is in Westchester. We worked in the opera department there and still performed. And then, I don't know exactly, can you tell that story of how it just sort of happened that one day you got a phone call about a job opening?
Yeah.
Binghamton?
Yeah, first of all, when Gene and I were both in Binghamton at Tri-Cities Opera, we had enjoyed ourselves so much, and we loved the area. We always thought when we got married, boy, if we had a family, this would be such a nice area to move back to. So we were very, very fond of Binghamton. We also, I would say that I learned while at Tri-Cities Opera, just listening to the audience members speak. A lot of the audience said, oh, the first opera I saw, I was 8 years old. I was 9 years old, 10 years old. I realized that the educational component of bringing opera into schools, Tri-Cities Opera had done that for so long. And I really think that's why a big reason the company thrived in this area and continues to thrive in this area, bringing opera to young people is so important. And that's been a big part of our work. Yes, we left here, we became professional singers and sang quite a bit. We also work with Lincoln Center and with some educational institutions in New York City, New York Philharmonic. And part of that work was to both perform, but also go into schools and work with children on aspects of the performance and really activity-based kind of learning. And so we've continued that here at Binghamton and Hansel and Gretel by also going into schools before the performance, working with students on some of the aspects of the performance they would see. And that's been extremely rewarding to do that.
And as we also lived through seeing the arts being cut, the funding for the arts being cut in a lot of the school systems, much to our dismay. And so we really are truly ambassadors for making sure that the arts are included in the curriculums and those opportunities are given to students along with the academics and the sports opportunities, that the arts are in there as a full, not just as a side fun thing, but a full valued subject to be studied. So.
For sure. And we do have a comment from an audience member who mentioned that their favorite part of the documentary was seeing the elementary kids' reaction to the actual performance. And we'll get into it a little bit later, but yeah, you visit the elementary school, and then a few days later, they actually go to the Anderson Center and see the full performance, and the reaction of the kids as they were seeing it on stage was really, really cool. And I was glad that was a part of the program for sure.
I think it's also so good for our students and for us to see the children, because so much of what we do is imagination and creativity, and what better person than a child to do that. Carmen Savoca, one of the founders of Tri-Cities Opera, used to say to us when we were students here in the program that learning to sing, you have to be like a child. If a child falls off a bicycle, he gets back on and he starts pedaling, playing the bicycle. He doesn't stand over the bicycle and think, why did I fall off that bicycle, and analyze that. And singing's a little bit like that. You have to just get back on and keep trying and go again. And you can't stop yourself by overthinking or anything. And I think children bring that element of wonderment of let me just do it again. I too love to see the children's expressions during the opera.
I could definitely relate to that, raising a beautiful 4-year-old girl. So who has many who sings many songs and does many interesting activities from minute to minute, for sure. But yeah, like you said, the innocence and the joy that the music can bring out in the children was really great to see, and I'm happy that we were able to capture that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think it's time to bring in another compatriot from that initial meeting we had back in the summer. Let's bring stage director David Carl Tolson to the program. Hello, David. Welcome to the program. How's it going this evening?
Really good. Yeah, really good.
Well, I have to, I know you were part of the meeting, but that was just, an initial phase. So I have to ask, what was your thought when you realized that a majority of your work was actually going to be documented by our Expressions camera team? Did that change the way that you directed the program at all?
No, I don't think it changed the way I would have directed the program. I mean, I think we had a few scheduling things we might have had to switch around to make sure they worked out and all of that. But really, I just, I think the Stefan was so accommodating and so, he was there, but never kind of interfering with the process. It actually became a very natural part of our process.
Mhm.
I remember, I think it was maybe the first music rehearsal he came to. I was a little aware that he was there, but then after that, it just became very, very natural.
Yeah, we will bring Stefan Schweitzer, who was a key component to the production of this film on in just a minute. And yeah, I'm interested to hear how he was able to become a fly on the wall throughout the entire semester. One aspect of the production, David, that we weren't really able to talk about in the broadcast was your use of the projections on the for the final production. Can you talk a little bit about that? And do you incorporate those in all the operas you work on, or was Hansel and Gretel kind of a special case?
Well, at Binghamton University, projections are reasonably new. The Anderson Center Chamber Hall just recently got a projector, and I was in discussion with the technical director and assistant technical director there to see if that was something that could happen, because our time in the theater is reasonably limited. We don't have a large crew to be able to move sets in, move sets out, and things like that. And to be able to tell the stories, especially when you're shifting scenes from one place to another, sometimes having a projection to help change the scene, to go from, say, the forest that you're in now, to Hansel and Gretel's house or something like that, is really, much faster and easier in the moment. Now, to make that happen, there's a lot of planning and work that has to happen ahead of time. And it also involves another designer in the program. So
I'm cringing at the thought of how you're able to get these projections to time in exactly with when they needed to come on screen. That had to have been very challenging.
Well, actually, there's someone sitting at the back of the theater. The computer setup back there is reasonably complex, especially because we're not only just doing the projections, we're also sending the super titles, the text of the opera.
Right. So the audience, Dave's talking about the subtitles, so the audience can sing along or follow along with the actors.
So, but there's actually two people back there. There's one operating a computer that operates those subtitles or super titles because they're above the stage, and one person operating the computer that has all those projections on it. And then to make the projections and all of that happen on time, we also have another person involved in the process Kirsten Knox, our stage manager, who has a book that she just follows and stays in the score. And every time the cue's supposed to happen, she calls it out to them. They press a button, and fingers crossed, it happens. So
it just shows you how many different members of the team it takes to put together an opera production, for sure.
For sure.
Another interesting aspect, and I think Gene and Tom might have mentioned this, is how you double and triple cast a lot of the key roles just to give all the students an opportunity to actually perform on stage. I'm curious if that is a challenge to direct, or maybe it's easier because you have all your characters there at once, possibly. And we're showing you some footage of these are the two fathers. Talking.
I do double casting quite frequently. With this program here, just because we have a lot of students that we want to work into the shows, and then in my job down in Miami, we do double casting quite a bit as well. I work in the summers doing a training program down in Miami, and so I'm used to that. Now, what was new about this, you mentioned the triple casting. In the 22, 23 years I've been doing this, I don't think I've ever triple cast an opera before, so that was new. And this may seem obvious when I'm saying it, but what I learned during that process is 3 does not divide by 2 evenly. Our process has been set up for 2 of this, 2 of that, 2 of that. So adding kind of a third required a bit of rethinking as to how we were going to get everyone rehearsed. But I will say the students were excellent in navigating the challenges of being triple cast, or double cast and triple cast, and helped each other, gave each other information, took notes for each other, and then also I think in the Expressions documentary, you actually see clips of students who are performing in front, and then there's groups that are performing behind, and we call that shadowing. And so you'll see sometimes, like, not just one pair of Hansel and Gretel doing their business, but actually 3 all doing the same thing at the same time. And it's actually it was a lot of fun to see that footage.
Do you ever run into any problems where, like, the actors get confused about rehearsals or anything because it's all the same? I'm sure that's not the case, but I'm just trying to think of all matter. Like, like if you're trying to schedule 3 Gretels or 3 Hansels, it seems like that could get a little confusing.
Yeah. Well, if we need Gretel at rehearsal, they're all there. So in that sense, that doesn't change how we work too much. But we often decide who gets paired with whom later in the process. So one of the interesting challenges is making sure everyone gets the opportunity to work with all the other folks, so that we can see which pairs work well together and make our decisions about who performs in which show. So that sometimes got a little confusing. Like, oh, have you done this scene with that person, with that Gretel, or have you done it with that one?
How many
Easier
different
to do.
How many different combinations of Hansel and Gretels could there possibly be?
Exactly. We found them all, I think.
Well, that's great. Well, we've mentioned him a couple of times, and I think it's time to bring him to the show right now. One of the true stars of this production, and a truly talented artist in his own right, Stefan Schweitzer. Stefan.
Hey, everyone. Hi, Andy. Thanks for the kind words. Well, I love hearing Dave's voice, because I've been sitting under the headphones for almost 2 months as he kind of like tells the story of it. I just love the way he speaks. So I'm so glad you're here, Dave.
Well,
thank you.
Stefan has been an invaluable member of our Expressions production team over the years, and we would not have been able to put this show together without his help. So thanks so much, Stefan, and congratulations. It really turned out great. And so I have to ask you for your strategy, and I want to say out of the shots in the program, probably 95% of them were shot by Stefan. So what was your strategy as you kind of became a part of the crew here.
Capture everything. just try and capture it. Find where the action is, find out where the interaction is, and just make sure everything's in focus and stable enough, because I was doing everything with a handheld gimbal, so there's a lot of floating around, and I think that added to the documentary in a sense. I think you feel like you're kind of closer than if everything was on a tripod. That's just my thought on it.
Well, Gene and I were discussing earlier, like with all your movement, it was like you were almost part of the cast. You were almost quadruple cast.
Yeah,
in a way.
It had a lot of musical elements in the way that you filmed, with the timing and the pacing and the motion. It was, the fluidity was perfect for a music project like this.
So, thank you, Gene. Thank you.
We'll have to do something else.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And to Dave's point earlier, it's right. Like when I first show up, everyone was like, "Oh, who is this?" But by the second or third time, I was invisible to everybody. And so they knew I was on their side. I wasn't going to do anything embarrassing. And so I was able to get some more intimate shots, I think, because just being there. I think we did like 11 sessions for this shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So, lots of rehearsals.
I remember when Gene sent the list over of, potential scenes to film. Oh, poor Robert, a Bills fan. He's probably not feeling that great this football season, but that's all right. Sorry, I can't help myself.
Native Buffalonians here.
I'm a Jets fan, so I all I can do is wallow in other teams' misery. That's fine. Anyway, it doesn't take long for this show to get off the rails. I do want any audience members who have any questions, opera or football related, please send them into the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer them. Here is some more rehearsals. Dave, I have to ask, you are so involved and so interactive with the actors. Is that your style for all productions, or did like the Hansel and Gretel kind of just lead itself to that type of activity?
Well, Hansel and Gretel certainly kind of lends itself to that much activity. But when I'm trying to convince a group of people, not convince, but trying to share ideas that are in my head with a group of people, sometimes it just requires a lot of energy initially till they start to get the ideas. And then there's this really interesting transfer of energy. As the singers begin to take on more of the show, actually for me, I get to kind of ease back a little bit, once I've kind of given them the ideas, and let them then kind of spend their energy. But yeah, lot of jumping around to
I really enjoyed
what I'm looking for.
I enjoyed your section in the broadcast episode where you kind of explained the difference when you teach undergrad students as opposed to graduate students, where you where you take a more hands-on approach with the undergrads, and then maybe let some of the more advanced students kind of work out their problems on their own. I thought that was a really intelligent way to work with the actors.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, David is very talented that way, and we're very lucky to have him with that sensitivity to the different levels.
Yeah, and I would say one of the things Steph did so great, because you capture so much of it. I was so curious, how are we going to condense all of this into this show? And what you did such a beautiful job of in so many ways is you really captured the quality, the feeling of what the students go through in these rehearsals. And Dave creates this environment of safety, of fun, of you can try this. I want to see. He welcomes the opinion, and the students embrace that. So when Dave says he hands it off to them as it goes on, he's given them the ability to do that, because Steph really created that and showed that so well. The students enjoying themselves, and the students just kind of going through the process and working hard. But it's a real credit to Dave, who's directing, and Steph, you did such a wonderful job in capturing really what's going on. Right?
Well, thanks, Tom. But Dave made it easy, because he brings a lot of excitement. And if I could just take a few seconds to talk about I watched some other Hansel and Gretel productions that were on YouTube.
Huh?
And I look at and they're, of course, they're on YouTube. They're bigger productions, and of course they have a better set and whatnot. But when you get into the acting and the movement, they've got nothing on Dave. Like your students were just expressive and interactive and not stiff at all. It was a real feather in your hat, Dave.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Well, we do have a question from the audience, and it asks, "What does it take to prepare a role in an opera as a singer?" And maybe I'll ask this to the singers that we have coming up too. But before we let Dave go, I don't know if you want to try to take a crack at that answer.
Actually, I'm going to pass that off to my colleagues Tom and Jean. I think, since they're more singers than I.
That
learning a role, that process, that starts months and months in advance. So the students knew before they went home for the summer what operas we were doing this year. And, if they're gung-ho and real, like, I'm sure some people were learning their roles and working on them in the summer. So yeah, they have to get the score. They have to just literally, the whole goal is to learn all the mechanics and all of the technical aspects of that score so you can set it aside and forget about it and let that piece of paper book become an organic thing inside of you. But first, you have to learn all the notes and pitches and rhythms that the composer put there. You can't improvise. You have to be doing it within those confines of what the composer gave you. Now, we were doing it in English. That made it a little bit easier because it was the native language for most singers, although not all, which we will be bringing up in later. He can talk about that, singing in English, a challenge for a Spanish-speaking student to perform in English. And then they come to the studio. And then Tom does.
Yeah, I think that most all the students are vocal performance majors. Their ambition is to sing professionally, and so our curriculum is voice lessons, vocal coaching, language, diction, opera workshop. We all work together. It takes a village. It takes all of those things. So I'm working in the voice studio with them to be able to sing it the best that they can. Coaches are helping them learn the music and going through the staging. The diction and the language teachers are working to make sure that's clear. So there's a lot of things happening in our on our faculty, and there's a lot of people that have really helped out with that.
Well, that's great. Just even more team members to add to the number that it takes to put together an opera. And don't forget, if you have any other questions, please leave it in the chat box and we will do our best to answer it. We do have more guests on the way, so I do want to say goodbye to David Carl Tolson. Congratulations on a tremendous production, and definitely look forward to our paths crossing again.
All right, sure. Thank you very much.
Yes.
All right,
Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, well, let's bring in two of the cast members to the Digital Director's Cut. Let's welcome Juan Tejo and Daisy Lawrence to the program.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Juan and Daisy, welcome to the program. How are you this evening?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
And
pretty good. Pretty excited about this. Thank you for having us.
Of course. I have to ask, what were your thoughts when you heard that this entire project was going to be filmed for a documentary?
Well, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work. It was my first semester at Binghamton, and so to get that news and then get cast as Gretel was really, really, really fun. And it's really great to have my first semester of graduate school documented, kind of.
That's true. I didn't even think of that. Like now, through 20 or 30 years, when it's still running on Expressions on WSKG, you can come back and, relive, your first semester of grad school. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Juan, how about you? And obviously you're an international student. Why don't you tell the audience where you're from originally?
Yes, of course. I'm originally from Mexico City, and I'm a new student. So this was actually my first production, and to be told that this was going to be a part of the documentary was a surprise, certainly. But I was pretty excited, and it turned out to be a great experience.
Well, and you ended up, I believe, playing a part that you did not originally audition for, or at least did not think, heading into the project that you would want to play the witch, correct? Could you tell me about, your evolution into this character?
Yeah, that's correct. I not auditioned for the role, but I must confess, originally I didn't want to do it. I didn't know the role and I didn't know the opera, but I was aware that the opera was originally written. Well, the role of the witch, it was written for a mezzo soprano. So I thought that, like, well, that's obviously not for me. I'm more interested in romantic, serious roles. So the typical thing at any tenor would say,
Mhm.
and it was because and thanks to my professor Tom Goodhart, that he thought it would be a good idea for me to do this role because it gives an opportunity to be more spontaneous, to don't think so much about technique, which we as classical singers tend to do. We tend to get into our head, and this role gave me that opportunity to be more open to the emotions, the acting, to reacting to my colleagues, and it really it taught me so many things that I will never stop applying to my creative process from now on.
Mm.
That's very well said. And I mean, definitely a lesson could be learned, like, yeah, open yourself up. That's great that you, at the start of the production, it wasn't even a consideration. And then, I mean, I want to say I know this is kind of cliche, but it was almost like you were born to play that role after seeing you on stage. And I love seeing that B-roll that Stefan put together of you, like, coming through the audience in costume as the witch, and the students' reaction to that. Like, just really, really cool. And
Thank you.
It has become the tradition in like the past 20 years. Opera companies have been casting a tenor in that role, and it really does work. I'm so glad you did it.
Well, I want to talk to you both about, and we kind of touched on this earlier, about how you take the opera to the elementary schools, and Stefan actually went with you to one of the Johnson City schools. And I have to say, another true MVP of this project is the Johnson City High School administrators, who got every student in what grades, like 3 through 5, to sign a release form, so we were able to see them in the program. So extra shout out to Johnson City High School administration. Thank you.
That was one of those things I would wake up at night like, oh my gosh, I gotta get those release forms. I gotta get.
I know.
One of the principals is my neighbor, so I was able to sort of work that out. Yeah.
Well, you know what, Gene? Between me and you, I haven't even opened this. This could just be a bunch of scrap paper for all of this. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But Daisy, can we see you interacting with the crowd? What was it like to go visit the elementary school?
Well, I absolutely love kids. If it's not evident by all of the footage you got, I took a lot of pleasure from watching that and reliving that. And it was just kind of magic. We weren't entirely sure what we wanted to do, but we had a few different ideas, and the group that we went with was very engaging too. And right now you're watching us play a little game that we devised where the witch was looking through the forest for Hansel and Gretel, and all of us had to, we could wiggle all we wanted, but when the witch turned around, we all had to be gingerbread men. And the kids just loved it, which was fabulous because we were having fun too. And then I think one of the funniest things that the kids said to Juan, when he said he was going to be the witch, they said, "Are you going to shave your beard?"
They did.
And he said no.
Yeah.
You gotta, kids say the darndest things. That's for sure. But no, that was definitely one of my favorite sections of the film, is just seeing their reactions to the opera. And as Gene and Tom mentioned, probably many kids at that age had never seen or heard opera music up until that point. So it just had to have been a great experience all the way around.
And it was really special to me because when I was younger, I didn't see opera. My first opera was my first year of undergrad.
Well, there you go. You're passing it on. And one interview clip, one of your fellow actors, Matthew Marola, he mentioned he was a little hesitant about having to go and visit the schools, and then like you could tell that he joined right in and participate. I mean, I know one of my favorite things to do here at the station is when we get elementary tours, and you can kind of show and they can see themselves on TV, and nothing can replace that childlike innocence, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Another person who we were thinking of maybe trying to bring onto the program was John Eisenberg, who plays a key role in our production, or in Binghamton University's production, as the pianist accompaniment. And for this production, you actually had 2 pianos in the pit for the final production, but maybe you guys can kind of speak to John's contributions and the other accompanists that you have.
John is amazing. He is the most collaborative, hardworking musician. He never says no. He's always there. He will always goes the extra mile. He's amazing. I wish we had two Johns. He is really a wonderful collaborator, and he supports the students, and he is a lifelong learner, and he always finds something new to love and to learn through the music. He's never just going through the motions. I love that aspect of him. He loves, he was just on vacation. I think he was playing fiddle or something in North Carolina somewhere, or he plays the organ also. He'll play different styles of music, and he's always available to the students to go over their music with them. Yeah, he's pretty amazing.
If a singer feels like they need extra work on the music, they know they can go to John and say, can you help me? And John will find the time to help them. He is tireless and he loves music. And if you ask John, he would say, I'm just so happy to be doing this. He's terrific.
He works with us in a summer music festival that we do in Quebec every year too. And he is a treasure there as well. So.
Well, and John is an expressions veteran himself. He did, I believe he played the fiddle with a Celtic Charm, I believe, on one of our holiday programs. Mm-hmm. And he also played the harpsichord with tenor Tony Valleco. We definitely appreciate John's talents here as well, for sure. Before we let Daisy and Juan go, do you guys have any what are your plans for this semester?
Oh, tell them what you're in next, you guys. You can do a little plug for our Puccini.
Okay.
Well, this is quite convenient.
Boyfriend, friend. Yes, quite convenient.
Yeah, it's quite convenient because Daisy and I are the young two lovers in this opera that we're staging now, called Gianni Schicchi by Puccini, which will be performing on the 23rd and the 25th of February. So
that's great at the Anderson Center, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
And alongside that, we're also doing another Puccini opera, kind of a double bill situation. And some of our very talented peers are starring in Suor Angelica, and I will also be in that production.
And when is that going to take place, Daisy?
The same days as Gianni Schicchi. So when you come to see us, you'll see Gianni Schicchi or Suor Angelica. There will be a small break, and then you'll see the other opera.
Excellent. And we do have a link. Yep, we have a link to the University Music Department website where I'm assuming people can get more information about these performances.
There's an informational opera log on February 10th at the Phelps Mansion that will be with little excerpts from the music. And we'd love to see you there. You'll get to hear the singers. It's a little preview where you hear some of the story and just hear some of the top tunes. And I'm sure Juan and Daisy will both be featured at that event as well. And then the 23rd and the 25th are the full performances at the Chamber Hall in the Anderson Center on the Binghamton University campus.
Excellent. And yeah, you can see the poster for the opera log right there. And yeah, so if you're looking for some opera, some live opera music, it's coming right up on February 10th. All right, Juan and Daisy, I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much.
You.
All right, we have one more special guest, and I'm very, very happy to have someone from Tri-Cities Opera on the program. Let's welcome the artist Amara to the program.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Hi, Amara. How are you?
Excellent. In the middle of production, so exhausted, but excellent.
Well, I don't know. I think I've said this multiple times, but one of my favorite parts of the program was when Stefan was following you around just the immense backstage area of TCO. There we go. We got some good B-roll footage right here of you constructing the sets. There's the oven that poor Juan met his demise in during
That'll
the
be our
production.
excellent master carpenter, Sean Shevlin, who builds everything at Tri-Cities Opera.
Very good. Yeah. I don't know. This was just really, really cool. You know, I want to say one of my very first shoots at WSKG, we were working on Nights at the Opera, which was a look at TCO. And I want to say, like, probably right in this area where we're looking right now is one of the first places I ever shot footage when I started working at the station 25 years ago. So it's bringing back memories.
Funnily, just before I started at Tri-Cities Opera. I've been there for 23 years, on and off.
So why don't you talk a little bit, and this was covered in the program, but why don't we talk a little bit about the relationship that Tri-Cities Opera has with the Binghamton University Opera Department and how unique it is?
Well, it's such a wonderful thing that Binghamton University has an opera program that includes a master's program, and Tri-Cities Opera often brings their students in. They audition for us and we bring them in for smaller roles. And then we have a postgraduate program with 4 resident artists each year, 1 of each voice part. And very occasionally it's a BU student, but they do audition from all over the country. So we get to bring those people in. And that also provides, some experience for the undergraduates to meet these postgraduates and find out what they've learned in the places that they've been. And then we bring in professional opera singers, often graduates of our postgraduate program, back for large roles like Tosca, and so the students and the postgraduates get to interact with them as well and make connections, learn new things. It's exciting that we have this in Binghamton.
Very much so. What was your favorite set piece to build for the Hansel and Gretel production?
Oh, the fire thing, obviously. Yeah. That the frontage piece was something that we used for our Hansel and Gretel that we did, 6-7 years ago. I mean, we've got pieces at Tri-Cities Opera that are 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old that we're still keeping around and using because why not? We've got the space to keep them. So that was one that I had designed, that my spouse and I had designed for another Hansel and Gretel we designed together. And we had used something different for the fire. I think we'd used lights or something. And when it came to how are we going to make this look like fire, I was like, oh, I get to play with fabric and make it look cool. And it really did.
Yeah, it looked really, really cool. I thought you were going to say that giant strawberry.
My spouse will tell you that was her favorite part. So my wife and I designed together, and then I do the scenic painting and she does the props. So when Dave asked for a giant strawberry, Jalen asked, bigger than a bowling ball or smaller than a bowling ball? And I went in and I said,
ended up way bigger than a bowling ball.
This is her question. And they were like, oh no, that's a great question. Bigger than a bowling ball, please. And so, yeah, she made that thing. And boy, never seen anybody's face happier than when Dave saw that thing.
I think Stefan captured that moment. I think I used a still frame of it in, the little opening I put together, and you're right. Like, yeah, he was very, very happy holding that strawberry. Well, Amara, I have to ask, I know that Tri-Cities is going to be celebrating their 75th anniversary soon. Congratulations on that. Do you guys have any special plans to commemorate, or just business as usual?
Oh, yes. There will be special things. I'm not high enough up in the structure to be able to speak to those.
Well, we don't have to do that, but I did grab something from your website to promote some upcoming productions.
Excellent. Yep, we're in production for the Fantastics right now, and I spent yesterday night painting the set. It's going to be fantastic. I promise you.
That's great, and that's coming right up.
Sure
February
is.
9th and 11th. Holy smokes. So you can go see some opera at TCO on the 9th, and then you can go to the Phelps Mansion on the 10th and check out some opera. So a lot of opera coming up for all of our aficionados out there in the audience. And of course, if anyone has any final questions to any of our guests, let us know. Feel free to let those go in the chat.
Steph, it's good to see that you dressed up for this. It's proper backstaginess that you are just there in the clothes that I'm used to seeing you in.
Yeah, I'm a casual person. I like to stay behind the camera. The funny thing I want to add is that through the hours and hours of editing this piece, I know you very well. I know you all very well, but you barely know who I am. But just thought I'd point that out.
Well, I was going to ask, Stefan, do you have any, stories that that you could share amongst us now? Now that the project is over, do you have any interesting or funny tales of the production? Was there ever a time where you got sent to the wrong spot, or any there was never a time where you ended up
never? But the first shoot was the auditions, and I was supposed to be there at 5. And I showed up at 4:50 and couldn't get in the theater. I didn't know which door to get in. So, but other than that, I try to be there early, on time. Yeah.
Well, and this project touched on pretty much every department in the whole university, including even the parking department. At one point, we had to deal with them just to see if we could, park in front of a dumpster for a couple of hours. But no dice.
No.
Well, and that's the great thing about opera, is that it's so collaborative, and there's so many different pieces that all have to come together to make this great 2 or 3 hours of live theater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan. I barely knew opera before, but now I'm all about, I don't know, Victoria
de la Salle.
It is amazing. I wish I had asked the actors this, but the fact that they're able to sing like that and dance in the costume and all that, it really is truly almost an underappreciated art form at this
Truly, because they're just, in a way, they're part of the orchestra. So imagine trying to ask somebody with the trumpet to dance around in a costume while they're playing the trumpet.
Well, and no microphones either, no sound reinforcement on stage. It's just their voice. That's
right.
Yeah.
No, they have to use their natural amplification system, which they need to learn how to access that in a safe way and in a healthy way. And we want to give them so much of that time on stage, because they can sing it with Tom in the studio at the lesson. That's one thing. Then they get together with Dave, and like you said, they're running all over, they're up and down, they're getting winded. Then they see, oh wait, I can't quite go that far, because then I can't sing. Like my technique starts to fall apart. Yeah. So there's this integration and this synthesis of the acting piece and the singing piece that have to come together, and they really can only learn it by doing performance. Not even just rehearsal, because then the performance adrenaline kicks in, and then that's a different layer. So we really love that we can give these students that opportunity.
We also heard Daisy earlier say that she had not seen opera. She was in, opera in college. She hadn't seen opera before. I too, the first opera I ever saw, I was in. I was not a child. Opera did not come to me in elementary, and I lived in the country, so I didn't have access to that. So I learned it late, and I just want to thank you all for what I learned is what a beautiful art form. Singing, dancing, theater, orchestra, everything's coming together. In opera, it's everything. And I have learned to love this art form that I had no idea about as a child. And the fact that we can bring this to children, and that WSKG and Steph, all the great work you did, and Amara, that we can all share and bring this to out into the world. I'm so appreciative of it. I think opera is a wonderful, wonderful art form.
Agreed.
Geez, you know what? Usually I look for an appropriate spot to end the episode, and Tom, I think you gave me one right there. That was extremely well said, and I can't thank all of you enough. I mean, it was a really, really great collaboration, and I think we have a very unique program that can feature the opera for years to come, for sure. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight, and I definitely look forward to working with all of you again in the future. So have a great evening.
Yes. Wonderful.
All right. So that's going to wrap up tonight's edition. I want to thank all of our guests this evening: Gene and Tom Goodhart, David Carl Tolson, Stefan Schweitzer, Daisy Lawrence, Juan Tejo, and the artist Amara for joining us this evening. And of course, I hope we all cross paths again shortly. And a reminder that you can watch the behind the scenes of Hansel and Gretel broadcast episode by following the link in the chat box. I want to thank Alyssa Micha and Patrick Holmes for their behind the scenes help this evening. And we will be back soon with another behind the scenes look of an Expressions episode. Until then, this is Andy Pioch. Good night.
Funding for this program is provided in part by the New York State Education Department.